So thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful afternoon here. My name is Teddy Uwe. I work with the Graduate Admissions Office for our Halmos College of Arts and Sciences here at Nova Southeastern University, and I will be your host today as we learn a little bit more about our graduate offerings within our marine environmental sciences here. To get us kind of started, of course, we're going to get you a little bit familiar with our university as a whole, as well as our faculty, and then we'll go into a little bit more details of course, the programs and the application process itself. If at any point you guys have questions, you can throw it in the chat, and then we'll try and address those towards the end of the presentation over here. With me here today, I have our department chair, Dr. James Kerfoot, who's going to introduce himself a little bit more in just a bit, as well as our academic program coordinator, Daria. They'll be also helping me to monitor the chat. Depending on questions, might be able to just give you a quick answer within that, but otherwise we'll go ahead and address that again towards the end of the presentation here. All right, and I do also like to mention we will be recording this, so afterwards, if you guys do want to be able to review this, we'll have this posted up onto our YouTube channel where you'll be able to watch it to your heart's content. Now, to get you a little bit more familiar with us as a university, Nova Southeastern University has been in the South Florida region since the 1960s, in fact. And actually, our oceanographic campus, which is where all of our marine environmental science studies happen, has been out here for quite some time in a similar period. We used to even be a little houseboat out there teaching classes. Now, we are a private research university, not for profit, so there's no in-state versus out-of-state tuition. It's set across the board. We're actually one of only 50 universities in the U.S. to be given the Carnegie Community Engagement classification. And with our R1 designation, we're having a variety of different opportunities for our students to get involved in research projects, both at master's and doctoral level. So you'll get to see about that a little bit more today. But more specifically, I want to get you familiar with where we're actually all located at. So our main campus is located in the Fort Lauderdale-Davie area, more towards the outskirts of Fort Lauderdale, and it consists of about a 300-acre property. For those that are coming from outside of the larger Florida state, that's about 24 miles north of the downtown Miami area. So more or less an hour or so, depending on traffic, if on a good day. But we actually have satellite campuses all across the state, whether it's over just in the Fort Myers area or up a little bit northwards into Orlando or Jacksonville. But for most of you here today, of course, you're going to be focusing a little bit more between our main campus area and then our oceanographic campus, which is in an area called Dania Beach. We're actually nestled within a state park system, so we're an ample opportunity to continue our studies within the larger marine and environmental sciences. I did want to go through a couple of key spaces, though, over on the main campus that many of you would come to be familiar with if you do intend to apply and then subsequently enroll over here. First off, of course, we have a beautiful 5-story library, our Alvin Sherman Library. It is actually a public space, so we have locals from around the area coming in to utilize some of the services that we offer over there. And actually does work to your benefit through that because we offer longer hours of operations that extend even onto the weekend periods. Across the 5 stories, you'll find a plethora of different resources, both in print and electronic version, as well as a variety of study spaces. And because of the fact that we have this publicly accessible too, we try and have different levels of service across the library spaces. So you can always go and work with any of our librarians or the staff that are working on the different floors to find any of your different resources. But a big hangout spot for many of our students is going to be the Don Taft University Center, which is going to have a lot of different, say, like food options as our cafeteria space, also holds our larger fitness center, which is our rec and wellness area, and a larger performing and arts wing that many of our different undergraduate students get involved in. We have actually 3 different theaters located across the campus, 2 of which are located over there at the University Center space. Now, on top of all that, we have our beautiful 4,500 seat arena that has quite a variety of different events going in it all throughout the year, whether it be some of our basketball games or even, say, some of our week of welcome opportunities. It's where we hold our commencements, graduations, and so forth. So you'll definitely get familiar with that as a student here. And to kind of paint a picture, as it were, I wanted to go through just a quick couple of photos that you have from some of those main spaces. So the far left 2 are actually from the top floor of our library space, which is referred to as our Levon Center. Over the last several years, we've been able to reconfigure this space into more of an immersive like networking slash special event space. So we bring in organizations from all across the state and the United States to come and work with our students, whether it be for professional development opportunities or different ways for students to, say, grow some of their different skill sets by connecting with nearby entities so that they can start to apply what they've been learning in many of their different areas of study. Then some other more recreational spaces that you, of course, would come to know would be like our rec and wellness fitness area. So we actually have three different stories within the rec well area that consist of free weights and weight machines, several basketball courts, and even extending to more like cardio-based machines. And we even have some leisure pools. The actual top right photo there is a beautiful top-down perspective of the University Center's main walkway. Many of you are going to be hearing the name Guy Harvey thrown at you if you ever get to come and visit the university. He's a huge proponent of what we do in the marine sciences, and is also a very renowned marine style artist. So he actually did a beautiful marine landscape within the university center that's almost the size of a football field, if you can believe it. Along on the bottom there, you also see depicted some of our different spaces for outdoor recreation, such as our outdoor athletic pool, which is also utilized for some of our scuba courses, and then a photo depicting some of our students that are going out into the boats for some of the research with the labs that are out here on the oceanographic campus. Now, a little bit more specifics about our College of Arts and Sciences. So we are divided between the main campus and the oceanographic campus for where we're hosting many of these different classes. And our departments are extended into some areas of biological sciences, as well as chemistry and our marine environmental sciences, and then several other departments within our humanities here today. And now, more specifically, in regards to our graduate degree offerings, as it pertains to all of your interest, we have quite a few within our master's degree offerings and a couple of others within doctoral. So I'm sure many of you are going to be focusing more, of course, on our MS and Marine Science program and our MPS and Environmental Science program. But we do also offer a variety of other master's programs underneath biological sciences or in some of our humanities areas like composition and rhetoric, conflict analysis and resolution, or even medicinal chemistry. Now, I do also like to preface when it comes to our doctoral degrees, we do require master's degrees to have been completed prior in order to apply for any of those. But for those of you thinking a little bit further down the line and would like to continue your graduate studies here at NSU, we do offer a PhD program in oceanography/marine biology, which we'll be able to get into in more detail in just a bit over here. And then I just quickly, of course, want us to focus a little bit more then with the Department of Marine Environmental Sciences. So to get you a little bit of a better breakdown over there, of course, for graduate level degree offerings, it includes the two master's programs that I was just outlining along with our doctoral program. And then at undergraduate level, if any of you guys are looking to continue at that level, you can look into taking our degree for environmental sciences or even marine biology. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our department chair for the Marine Environmental Sciences, Dr. James Kerfoot.
Thank you, Teddy. I go by JR here on campus. I'm pretty new to NSU, but I'm happy that you guys are joining here. A little bit of background. I just started in June 2025 here at the Oceanographic campus, NSU's kind of pride and joy, right along the Atlantic coast. And so I was struck by the site first and foremost. And so I'm excited to be here. I'm coming from the middle of the United States and kind of coming back to my roots. I studied up at Florida Tech, looking at actually a lot of things in the Everglades. And so with NSU's proximity to the Everglades, research can go any number of different ways here, whether you're more apt to go to the ocean or stay along the coast in mangroves or coral reefs, or even heading into the Everglades. Whatever wets your whistle, it's going to be available here. And so I'm happy to be here. And again, I want to point out that Teddy and his team does a great job at recruiting. But Daria Geegan, she's our new program coordinator, academic program coordinator, and she is really the go-to for how to get through this program. And she's actually been through this program. So if you guys want to ask some questions in the chat, and she'll start addressing those as we continue our conversation. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here talking to you as well. And so some of my background and research interest, of course, I said was the Everglades, but even in thinking about marine systems a bit more fully, I'm now a seagrass researcher as well, and so I do some seagrass researcher projects over in Puerto Rico, and I also do some in Southwest Florida as well, and I want to continue that type of study here on the East Coast as well. And so I'm a fish guy as well, so I like any and all things. And so I did want to talk a little bit about, go ahead to the next slide, Teddy. Sorry about that. I want to talk about a little bit about the faculty that you would be kind of meeting and interacting with, especially if you do research projects, but definitely interacting in different types of ways. And so we have expertise that span the gamut. And so our really environmental studies and environmental sciences professor is Paul Baldoff, who is our resident geologist. And so he's very interested in those types of things. You see, he also has some Everglades background in his research repertoire. He actually is even he does a lot of work in the Badlands in the other part of the United States, and so he's interested in those kind of things. And some of the classes that you might take from him in the environmental sciences program could be things that related to hydrology as well as some work on geology. And we have a coral reef expert, and when I say coral reef expert, Andrew Ballman, he's not just corals. So coral reef encompasses a lot of different things, whether you're talking about the algae or the dynamics with some of the other invertebrates or even fishes. And so he kind of looks at the holistic view of the coral reefs. And he mainly does his work over in the Coral Triangle over in Indonesia. And so you'll find him each and every year with his students working there at the Coral Triangle over there in Indonesia. And so we have a lot of coral experts, and so you'll see a lot of those in a minute. So next slide, please. So then we have Derek Burkholder, who he's a product of NSU, and he is really interested in tracking the movements of sharks, and so you'll kind of see that in his blurb here. And so he does anything and everything shark tagging or looking at sharks in different ways, but he also helps to run and manage. He's the director of our sea turtle rescue. And so not Brevard County, sorry, Broward County here in South Florida partners with NSU to help with sea turtle hatchlings and making sure their numbers continue to maintain themselves or even increase. And so he and his team are working along those lines to document that. And so projects run rampant based on that as well. And so one of our newer faculties, Susana Caballero, she is, if you've ever heard the term eDNA, environmental DNA, she is kind of our in-house expert on that kind of stuff. And so she's really interested in marine mammals and river dolphins and those sorts of things. And she used an interesting way to kind of see if they're present. And so utilizing eDNA techniques to help determine where these guys are roaming, and then looking at heredity and other genetic factors between populations. She also studies whales at the beginning of the year, usually in January and February. You can find her on a research vessel doing some sort of different project as it relates to these marine mammals. Then we have Joshua Feingold, who is a coral ecologist, and he's really looking at the coral level. And he does a lot of work out of the Galapagos, and he's interested in seeing how the coral population has changed over time in that area. And we know that many hurricanes and just climate has changed. He can document how the corals themselves have changed. And so what's interesting about that too is that he can pick on a certain type of species of coral and determine if it's resilient or not. And so he's interested in looking at ways to assess corals utilizing photos. And so he's piecing together photos that he's taken over time and then seeing if you can get something measurable out of those and testing the health and not of those communities as well. All right, next, please. Then we have Joanna Figueiredo, who is our coral propagation specialist. And so she actually is she does a lot of things, first and foremost. She's pretty fantastic. But if you're looking to find somebody to pick their brain about restoring coral reefs, she would be your go-to because she's testing how coral larvae settle along substrates, maybe some of the triggers for that, and then how to propagate corals from fragments to new reefs. And so she's really into the restoration aspect of coral ecology. And then David Gilliam, also a coral ecologist, but he also monitors fish around reefs as well. And he's into kind of monitoring over time the way reefs are degrading or not, and how even different aspects of estuaries and offshore areas are changing in their water chemistry. And then we have Fraser Jonankowski Hartley, who is our resident fish behavioralist. And he's interested in looking at coral reefs as well, but he's not limiting himself to that. He's interested in looking at how fish behaves in estuaries and coral reefs, how maybe thinking about animal husbandry, moving from one type of habitat to the next, and how that might impact um, how that population grows or sustains itself over time. And so he's also interested in important fish as it relates to fisheries and that sort of thing in second and third world countries. And so he does a lot of his work over in the Philippines as well. And he's also interested in how we have this socioeconomic kind of ecological aspect of just nature and the human interface between it, and how that can manage itself. And so he has some fascinating classes that are available for graduate students related to those kind of things, whether it's animal behavior or the interaction between humans and nature. Next. Amy Hirons, one of our longer-lived faculty here, she can tell you stories about this place that might just blow your mind. And so she was around when there was one houseboat, right, that Teddy was talking about. She is our marine mammologist, and so she's interested in anything from manatees to dolphins to whales. She does classes where she takes students to Hawaii, and so she really has a passion for teaching students different things. She also does a lot of marine chemistry as it relates to sedimentation of different heavy metals and trace metals, that sorts of things, and kind of seeing what things get caught up in the living tissue of our marine animals. And so she's interested in those kind of things and works wonders with our graduate students. And then we have Jeffrey Hawk. He also goes by JMAP. Um, and so he is our ecologist and conservation person. He does work out of the Everglades an awful lot in looking at also kind of small scale interactions between invasive species and natives as it relates to fish, but looking at how maybe habitat impacts behaviors as well between invasives and non-natives non-natives and natives. And so really interesting type of work. And then we have David Kerstetter. He is our marine fisheries guy, but he is quickly becoming the seabird expert as well. And so he does an awful lot of work looking and tracking larger types of fish and fisheries. So we're talking about those fish with sail fins and tuna and those sorts of things. He's also recently got pretty interested in collaborating with some in the biology department, looking at parasites within seabirds and within fish alike. And so he's always quick with a tip and always quick with a research idea. And so he's quite an asset here at NSU. Next. So we have Rosanna Milligan, who she goes by Zam, and she is one of our deep sea fish ecologists. And so she works hand in hand with two other faculty, Dr. Frank and Dr. Sutton, on their Deep End project. You'll hear a little bit more about that in a minute. But she does a lot of work with them. But she's also our kind of our in-house statistics guru. And so she actually, on the side to help students out with their different projects, she'll help determine what stats are good and how to run them, and kind of look over the graduate students' work to make sure they're doing things appropriately, at least from an experimental and statistics background. And so she's also interested in human impacts in offshore marine ecosystems. And that really ties in well with the Deep End project that she collaborates with the two other faculty as well. Uh, Abby Renegar, she's our research scientist. She's our marine chemist. She's very valuable here. She has her hand in looking at coral restoration, but also uh, topics that include how the chemicals in sunblock are influencing coral reefs or showing up in different types of animals within the marine setting. And so you need to have a clever chemist, and she is our clever chemist to help determine those kind of things. She is also our histologist and does an awful lot of work with that. And you have to, if you're looking for microplastics in tissues, and she's your person to kind of talk to about that. Alex Soloviev is our resident oceanographer, and he anything and everything that deals with oceanography of the surface level ocean, especially thinking about how hurricanes are um, formed and how we can predict their impact, maybe, and their frequency from one decade to the next. He's the person to talk to, and so he uh, he has a lot of research experience in that field, and he's highly sought after as an expert in that field. And so um, he's a really cool guy to talk to and learn a little bit more about that background. Next. So Tracy Sutton, he's our deep end expert. He's one of the ones that Zan works with. He is interested in looking at pelagic fishes, and so he looks at he actually helps to charter these huge research vessels that take out Zan and another professor, Tammy Frank, to go out and collect samples from different depths in the Gulf of Mexico. And what piqued his interest in the Gulf of Mexico is right after the BP oil pipeline broke and spewed oil into the Gulf. And so he, along with others, developed a project to look at how things might return back to normal after such a catastrophic event and a big impact on that environment. And so he's been collecting data ever since, and really fascinating. He's your go-to for looking at and IDing fish. He's our ichthyologist. And so he also teaches a graduate ichthyology class. I'd highly recommend it. Very knowledgeable of fishes. Timothy Swain is our resident invertebrate biologist. He specializes in certain invertebrates, but he's the guy who's going to teach the invertebrate classes, and he has projects that kind of run the gamut from looking at corals themselves, but also all those other types of invertebrates that are within the coral reef themselves. And he's looking at the evolution of form and function and in physiology as well. And then Brian Walker is one of our research scientists that looks at the spatial distribution of coral reefs and reef organisms, and really has done a great job at mapping the presence absence of these things along the east coast of Florida, and really looking at how it's changed over time, and looking at impacts of dredging and not in certain areas. And so with our proximity at the oceanographic campus here, we're right on the Port of Everglades. And so there, every once in a while, it has to be dredged. And so that's not a zero-sum issue. And so there's going to be downstream consequences. And so he and his team are able to pick up those different fluctuations over time and even predict maybe how things can change or how they might change based on those perturbations. And so next, please. So you can take some time on your own here to kind of look and navigate through the NSU website to find us. And actually, as of last night around 8 o'clock, I got word that the Department of Marine and Environmental Sciences webpage has been upgraded. And so you guys would probably be the first ones to see it. I don't even know if the faculty realize it's been updated. But I challenge you, go and find out a little bit more about each and every one of these faculty and research scientists that are in the department. You'll find that each one has a link to their research and kind of gives you a snapshot of the things that they've worked on in the past, and maybe even a glimpse of what they're working on in the future. And so if you guys are wanting to apply to the MSMS thesis-based program, that's a great place to start to see what kind of research is going on here at NSU. And then, of course, there's a repository for the work that has been done through NSU that would give you access, again, to some of those research articles and information about that. And so we have a top-notch faculty and research scientist group here. And again, they have been pulling for the R1 status from the Carnegie Center, and we've reached that, and we're going to continue to help that thrive as we move into the initiative that even Dr. Moon, the president of NSU, has with looking at how we can utilize the ocean in a bigger way as a university. And that no doubt involves this department and the graduate students that come along. Next. So I did want to talk a little bit about the different graduate programs here in Domes. And so we do offer a thesis-based MS, Masters of Science in Marine Science. And you guys kind of already know we've mentioned some of the broad topics with the different faculty interest. And so that's kind of where I would like to start is we're doing stuff offshore, we're doing stuff near shore, we're doing stuff in the Everglades, whether it's restoration or just kind of categorizing things that are occurring that you're seeing, how communities are changing, the interaction between humans and wildlife. All those topics are being presented in different ways here at NSU Oceanographic Center. And so you guys are going to be taking courses that utilize our proximity to the ocean in different ways. And so what a place to be, right? I was coming from Tennessee, middle of the United States, basically. I was teaching a marine biology class all the way from Tennessee, but what did I have to do? I actually had to bring students on a field trip to Florida. Hey, we get to do that every day here now. And so what an experience, what a resource to have right next door. And so we do offer those immersive types of experiences. We have a fleet of boats. We have a fleet of professors that want to take students out on these boats and give them the unique experiences as well. And so just something to look forward to as you consider where your next step would be. And so please, the next slide. So within the Masters of Science in Marine Science, there are 3 different concentrations. We have kind of a catch-all, kind of a marine biology kind of focus. So it's pretty broad in some of the courses that you could take and choose from. But then we have a bit more specific one called Coastal Zone Management. And just like the name implies, we're looking to help hone in the student's interest maybe on how to either restore or manage along the coastline. And maybe some fisheries in the estuaries, require protection or management in some way. And so courses are designed in that kind of light to help the student and prepare them for after their master's degree. And then in the marine environmental sciences, maybe a bit more broader scope, looking at across different environmental settings and looking at techniques to assess and even manage in that light as well. Next. So you'll see this kind of the outline of the curricula for the marine science, the MS in marine science. And basically what I want you to get from this, because you can always go back and kind of take a look at this later or ask questions. And this is where Daria comes into play. She's going to be your academic advisor once you come to NSU. And so for the MS in marine science, there's a total of 36 hours that are required by the graduate student for degree completion. What you notice along the left-hand side here, you have a list of core courses. Those are 3 courses that every MS student has to take. They involve biostatistics, marine chemistry, and scientific communication. The faculty of the department have deemed that these are important enough that every student should have those in their back pocket. However, based on your concentration, then you take a series of courses that, in this case, 7 other courses that whatever you're interested in, whatever your concentration is, that help to make up then your total credit hours to 30. And then to get the extra 6 hours that you need to graduate, you actually have to take 6 credits of thesis. And so remember, the MS in marine science is a thesis based, and so research is expected, and a thesis is a part of the product there. And so you'll go through a thesis defense and then writing of the thesis and hopefully publishing it in a peer-reviewed journal as well. And you see some of the other degree requirements as well, attending 8 defenses of other students. Now, I will point out, maintaining a 3.0 throughout the program is very important, okay? And so, so that's the MS in Marine Science curriculum. Again, 36 hours. 6 of those hours are thesis credits where you're just writing your thesis, and the other 30 are made up of coursework. Next. So this kind of gives you kind of a timeline, a rough estimate of how to get and complete this program in an efficient manner. As a full-time student, you're taking 6 credit hours per semester, and that usually equates out to 2.5 to 3 years to get those 36 hours. And again, it depends on how ambitious you are at trying to get out in a reasonable time. And writing is good writing is rewriting, and so however long it takes you to rewrite things, maybe that's where you start. A part-time student could get through the program. It'll take a little bit longer, though. Of course, you notice the maximum enrollment time is 5 years for this master's degree, and so yeah, you don't want to stay longer than 5 years. We don't want to have to kick you out, but there could be extenuating circumstances maybe that we could talk about. Now, a full-time student is taking courses in the fall, the winter term, and the summer term. And so it's year-round, and so summer attendance is required. Next. Now, we also have a second type of master's degree. It's the Master's in Professional Studies in Environmental Sciences. And that's where the MPS degree comes in. And that's a non-thesis based program. And so what we mean by that is and the element of research and writing about the research is not expected, but you're still taking 30 hours of courses, okay? And this is important because this program has been developed in such a way to remove the research component, because we feel that some students that want a master's degree are looking at the master's degree as a professional route, where we want to get you in, getting those skills and courses that you need to better maybe help you in your current job, or help you become very, what's the word I'm looking for? We want to make you marketable for the professional service. And so whether that's working for the state, federal government, in different jobs that relate to looking at environmental sciences, could be a private environmental science firm that assesses things and the like. And so it's more important that you have skills rather than have a research and thesis at the end. And so that's why this Master's in Professional Studies in Environmental Sciences was developed. Again, it's 30 hours. You're focusing on applying skills that you're learning in the different classes. And it still gives you a lot of the same classes and experiences that the MS student is doing, yet it helps in moving you through in an efficient way so that you can go on to bigger and better things after NSU. Again, within this, within the MPS degree, we don't necessarily have concentrations, but you can learn skills from each and every one of these different concentrations. And so you're going to be taking a core of 15 credit hours, and that it does include biostatistics, scientific communications, and marine chemistry as well, among other things. And then you get a mix then of 15 other credits, or you can equate that to 5 different classes that you can mix and match to whatever you like and whatever skill you'd like to learn. And so again, no formal concentration with this degree, but you can take courses related to these concentrations. Next. And here's kind of a kind of sample of what's going on here. I know it does say concentrations here. Again, there's no formal concentrations, but you can pick courses from the different concentrations here. Now, I will point out under on the left-hand side with the core courses, the biostatistics shows up. We have the um, the aquatic environmental chemistry, that's the marine chemistry, the scientific communication. But the other two cores that are required for the MPS degree are the ecosystem processes and the geological processes. And so those are the 5 core that are required. But then the other 5 courses to make up the 30 credits total are at your discretion. And so again, courses from looking at corals from the inside out to looking at marine apex predators or invasive species or coral biochemistry. Again, that can tailor to whatever your interests are and whatever you might help you be marketable in the professional workspace. Next. Oh, you also have to maintain a 3.0 in that program as well. So in our graduate program for the master's level, 3.0 is very important. You see a full-time student to complete, and the full-time student would be taking, again, fall, winter, and summer semesters. About 18 months. Part-time students taking only 3 credits per semester, about 3 years. And again, the maximum enrollment for the MPS degree is only 3 years compared to the MS in marine science, which is 5 years. And so again, I do want to emphasize this is a non-thesis route, so you don't need to worry about a thesis or the research aspect. Although I'm sure the MS students that are doing the research would gladly ask for your help in field excursions, which is also another way to gain really cool just professional skills to do well in after NSU. Next. Then our final type of graduate degree offered in DOMS is the PhD in oceanography/marine biology. And this, like Teddy had already mentioned, coming into this program, you have to have a master's degree already. And so that does help cut down in the number of courses that you have to take. It does allow you to work with some pretty top-notch researchers already, whether they're faculty or research scientist level here. And you have a lot of different resources at your disposal as well. We already talked about the the boats in the marina, but we have connections with outside groups, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, NOAA, that we kind of collaborate with to help develop some pretty awesome projects for our PhD students. And again, it's with input from the PhD student themselves. And so it does provide you with an opportunity to work alongside those expert faculty in their expertise. So it does allow you to publish, of course, your papers in peer-reviewed journals, as well as continue writing that dissertation. And so going into the PhD route, many folks that go that route stay in academia, whether as a faculty or research scientist, but you could go out and find a professional job as a PhD student as well, or with a PhD degree as well. Okay, next. So a couple different learning outcomes. There's maybe a lot going on here, but I want to focus your attention on the degree completion requirements in the blue box. So you do need to complete a minimum of 75 credits, and that's after undergraduate degree, that is at least 42 credits consisting of upper level coursework and 33 credits consisting of dissertation research. So the 42 credits, you can actually transfer some of those in to NSU from your master's degree. Remember, again, this PhD program requires a master's degree already. So that cuts down on the time you need to take these actual coursework. And so you'll take a few coursework, but the majority of the things you're going to take here at NSU are your dissertation research credits that help you fulfill that 75 credits. Now, there are requirements of passing a qualifying exam, and so it's a written portion as well as with the potential for an oral comprehensive exam. And so and that's administered by your committee. So, and that committee is chosen by you and your mentor, your research mentor. And so it's it so this comprehensive exam kind of tests your knowledge overall about the topics that you should know something about, right? It's not just kind of left field things that you might not know anything about. It's more structured in that way that you should know certain things. And um, you are also required to, of course, defend your dissertation uh, and actually finish writing the dissertation and submitting it as well. For this program, you have to maintain a 3.5 GPA throughout the program um, to remain in our good graces. And so that's a little bit different than the master's level program. So a full-time student taking 6 credit hours per semester, and again, that's the norm, okay, for our graduate students. But for the PhD, the 6 credit course completion should be 3 to 4 years. Again, once upper level credit course has been completed, it may take, you can take 3 research credits per semester to maintain a full-time status. So that's at the PhD or the master's level, 3 credit hours per semester is still you can still maintain your good graces with NSU, and that's fine. But you see the maximum enrollment for the PhD program, though, is 7 years. And so, again, we're trying to get you through in an efficient amount of time, but it does vary depending on data that needs to be collected and then how good a writing the individual is. So at least 33 credits of the PhD must consist of those dissertation credits. And again, down below here, students, you guys can transfer up to 30 credits from your master's work. So you have to take a few courses, but again, not too many. But the rest, the majority, as a PhD student here, will be the dissertation credits. And so again, some of these credits that you can take are directed study. And so those are going to be courses that are developed maybe by your research mentor for you to learn techniques, or it could be a directed study with another faculty to help you learn a technique out of their lab that you can apply towards your research outcomes. And so really fascinating and cool way that NSU allows us to do that. Next. So kind of looking at how the PhD dissertation develops here, looking at directed study credits. They're optional, but again, they can allow you kind of some skills that would help prepare you to collect data or even analyze data. You actually defend a research proposal, and this is under the guidance of your research mentor, and you submit that proposal to what we call our depository here, which is NSU Works. After you've cleared your comprehensive exams and you successfully defended your proposal, then you could move into what we term dissertation credits. So at that point, you're kind of collecting the data, you're kind of analyzing the data, you're writing about it, that sort of thing as well. And then finally, at the end here, you get the dissertation defense. And so defenses do have to be held during semester time, and so you can't get around maybe having a crowd, right? We want to come and support you across the whole department, and so we want to come hear your defense. And so those are scheduled during a regular semester. And so those are just a couple details. There's a lot of finer details, but I thank you guys for your time, and thank you, Teddy, for allowing me to come on and talk a little bit about the program.
Thanks so much, Dr. Carfoot. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and jump into more of the application details. So to get us going with that, I do first want to introduce you guys to our larger graduate admissions team here for the Halmos College of Arts and Sciences. Now, the vast majority of you, of course, are going to be working with me since I do handle all of our marine environmental science graduate program applications, but anyone else here on screen can assist you from our office. Leading the charge for us is Brett McAllister as our director for the graduate admissions team, and he's in-house with us here today. And then my two coworkers, Megan and Farah, assist me with some of the other programs that we house here underneath the Halmos College. We do travel a little bit for our work over here, so I usually say email is the best way to get a hold of us, but we can set up Zoom meetings as well as do phone calls. So if you prefer any of those methods, we're happy to do so. And if you ever call into our general lines, you're more than often going to come and talk with Andrew. Now, Andrew is actually a graduate from our MPS Environmental Science program. So, depending on what questions you may have about even any of the other graduate programs, as well as the MPS, he might be able to answer himself. But most of the time, he'll go ahead and transfer you over to me. Now, really great thing about all the graduate programs that we were just learning about there is that we do admissions on a rolling basis. So we're accepting applications all throughout the year. You would start for one of three terms, though, being winter, summer, or fall. The next term coming up for us is going to be the winter 2026 term. And just to clarify, I know for many institutions, they do refer to it as their spring term. That is the same time period as us. We just refer to it as winter. So this means that our winter term starts pretty much right after the new year, give or take by a couple of days, depending on when the holiday falls on the calendar year. Summertime, by comparison, starts off actually usually in the first or second full week in May. And then for the vast majority of you that I know are interested in looking into the fall period, you would be looking to start then usually in the third week of August. Now, for any of our application deadlines, though, we usually try and keep those to a Friday during the work week. So all the ones you're seeing listed here for winter, summer, and fall are going to fall on a Friday over here. If you ever have any questions about the timing of your application, or if you're having issues with any of your required materials, please do reach out to us so that we can figure out a good plan of action for you. But with that in mind, I do want to, of course, jump into what we're looking at for requirements for our two master's programs. Now, the MS Marine Science and MPS Environmental Science program do have generally the same requirements in terms of application materials, but one big key difference is going to be our cumulative GPA requirements that you're seeing listed there on the bottom in the red text. So for the MS Marine Science program, we need a minimum cumulative GPA of 2.85 in order to apply, although I would say that our average candidate is usually sitting at a 3.0 or higher. Similarly, then with the MPS Environmental Science program, we look at a cumulative of 2.75, but still usually our average candidate sits 3.0 or higher. As part of your process through this system here, you're going to be submitting a general NSU application that's going to have a couple of different sections that I'll go through here in just a sec. But when you would go to submit said application and pay the $50 fee associated with it, that does not mean your application is complete. It is essentially the first portion, but then we still require two other components, which is official transcripts from anywhere where you've attended for college. And what I mean by that is if you've attended more than one institution for your undergraduate degree, or if you've gone off to other institutions even for a graduate level credit, then we do need separate transcripts from each of them. The only times where we do not need separate transcripts is if you have had test credit coming into your undergraduate institution, or possibly certain types of like IB, like International Baccalaureate, or some of those AP classes. Those we may not necessarily need another document for. Then you will submit a copy of your curriculum vitae or resume. We do not require letters of recommendation with this application for either of our master's programs. What you will see actually within the application portal, you will see a separate section for recommendations, but nothing will populate there. So you can go ahead and ignore that. However, we still do strongly recommend that if you'd like to use anyone in such a capacity, that you can add them as references within your resume. Ideally, we want to have at least two references listed if you're going to include those on your resume, with at least one of them being from an academic source. And what we mean by that is, anything from a past professor, a program advisor, your academic advisor, or, if you did excursion courses through your main institution and how you were able to, form a partnership with them. Those are all great individuals that you can list. We do still accept professional references, although we would like for them to be as relevant as possible to our program. So, if you did an internship or a part-time gig at a local aquarium, or you were helping out at local veterinarian hospital, or, something similar along those lines, you could certainly add in those individuals as references. In case of format for references, all that you would be listing would be the person's name, their formal title, their relationship to you as the applicant, and then a way to contact them. Outside of that, for those of you that are coming from outside of the US and have not attended a US-based institution for college, we do also require proof of English language proficiency. We accept scores from a couple of different entities, so feel free to reach out to us and we can send over the full list of what we accept and the score requirements for that. Now, for the PhD program, by comparison, it is essentially growing off of what we require at master's level by a couple of different points over here. So, similarly, you're still going to submit that general NSU application as well as your transcripts and a copy of your resume. Now, one thing that we do require still is the GRE examination. However, for those of you that come and do your master's degree with us here at NSU, we will have that waived. Otherwise, we have flexibility within the period that the exam has been taken. So as long as you took the GRE within the past 5 years, we will be willing to accept those scores. On the GPA, we're going to be looking at a 3.0 cumulative undergraduate GPA as our minimum requirements, and then a 3.5 cumulative GPA for graduate level GPA. Now, with the 3.5, as Dr. Kerfoot was kind of talking about a little bit too, we need to have you at 3.5. That is a very hard set number for us because of the fact that if we do take in any transfer credit coming into your degree, that also is what's going to make your starting GPA. So if you have taken low grades and you were wanting to transfer those in, and you do need to have at least a C in the grade in order for us to even think about transferring it in for those 42 credits, then that could mean that we could be dropping you down to a lower GPA to begin with, which we don't want to see happen because obviously if you're below that 3.5, then you'd be automatically put on academic probation. So not a good way to start your PhD, right? But then the biggest requirement, by far the most important, is our letter of endorsement from a faculty member. Being quite honest with you, as I talk with any of our interested students for the PhD program, I usually don't even recommend submitting the NSU application until you've gotten said endorsement letter. That letter, for lack of better terminology, is like your keys to the kingdom, right? It's going to entail which faculty is taking you on, what you're going to be doing for a project, have a little bit of outline on details regarding that, and specifically more so how it's all going to be funded. Depending on some of those details too, it's not exactly, a guarantee, of course, to be admitted in. We have to take a look at your larger application, right? There's a formal review. And if we're not seeing enough information, especially listed within that letter of endorsement, then we may have to discuss, possible amenities to looking into further details about how we could be taking you on as a possible doctoral candidate. Likewise, though, when it comes to the resume piece, we still would love to have more references added in, but rather than two, we'd like to see at least 3 references listed, with 2 of those being from academic sources. Now, to get you guys a little bit better idea about what it's all actually going to look like over here, so we're going to kind of jump through the application and, application and the portal itself. So first up step for you, as you'd be going to apply to us here, you have to, of course, create an application account. When you go to do so, this is where it's going to redirect you here onto the photo you're seeing just down below on the slide here. One big thing that we want to make sure that you're doing over here is using a non-university related email. Many students make this issue in the past, and then we have trouble trying to get in contact with them later on to send further pertinent information. In many cases, after you graduate out from your former institution, you may retain access up to 6 months, but then it's general protocol for you to be cut out from the email system. So we want to make sure you're using more of a personal email so that you can retain access to it, as we'll be sending various updates about your application and any other further instructions if you're admitted, say, to enroll later on. Then it's just more so making sure that you're submitting all the correct information. So please do double check everything before you go ahead and submit it. So that includes things like your date of birth, your entry term, address, phone numbers, and things of that like. And then finally, we want to make sure that you are understanding that if you're interested in multiple programs for us, you do need to submit a separate application for each of those. With that in mind, though, what you'll get to see once you start an application is going to look very similar to what you're seeing in the photo here on this next slide. So you're going to have several sections as part of the general application, which include your biographic information, contact info, your specific program information, prior college information, and then a couple of legal disclosures. Now, one thing that I always have asked to me many times is, of course, where can I go and start to upload, say, my resume or track the status of my transcripts? You're going to be able to do that underneath the box that's highlighted there within the red box there called admissions documents. But some of that information may not be available until you actually go and submit the application and pay that $50 fee. For instance, the resume item will not populate within the admissions tab there until you submit that $50 fee. So as a reminder again, when you go and submit the application and pay that fee, it's not complete yet. You've just essentially submitted the first portion of the application. And when it has, been submitted, it does usually take 24 to 48 hours to process in our system. So you may not automatically get to see the resume item populate in, but if you give it a day or so, it should populate on the portal system. Likewise, after you've submitted copies of your resume over to us, it'll be a similar processing time. Transcripts are a little bit different, as well as if you need to submit English language proficiency, because those have to be submitted through approved channels, which does include an electronic format. It's going to be for transcripts, either parchment or the National Student Clearinghouse. We do accept physically mailed copies of transcripts as well. You can alternatively have your university's register office send that directly to us. I can send you a physical address as necessary. However, if we receive transcripts in any other channel, any other format, even if it's directly from you as the applicant, or even if it's from your register office and they emailed us directly, it's going to be classified as unofficial, which means we cannot use it for your review. So if you have any questions regarding that, if you're uncertain, if you're going to be sending it the right way, please do reach out for us. Likewise, with like proof of English language proficiency, most of the organizations that we allow for approved test scores from have their own portal system for them to be able to send over the test scores. So usually you do need to send your scores directly through your own test portal system. If you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to us about that. All right. Now, once everything is said and done, we've got in all of your transcripts, we got in your resume, your application's all set to go. We will go ahead and do a final review, make sure, it's all in order. And then we are typically looking at around 5 to 10 business days for the review process. Once the review is completed, you will be notified via email with your decision, and then any following instructions will come at that point. If you ever are looking to get updates or anything like that, you can reach out to me, although I'm usually pretty good about letting you know, of course, and then sending out when your decision letters do become available. Now, if and when admitted to the program, then the first step that you would be doing is to submit your seat deposit to reserve your seat in the program, right? So it's $100, and this isn't a separate fee necessarily that we just pocket. It's actually put directly towards your tuition costs. So you can very much think of this like a small down payment towards your tuition, and this allows us to, one, see that you are then confirming that you're going to be coming and attending with us for your intended entry term, and then this also then fully activates your student account, at which point then you can go and start to plan a academic advising meeting with Daria there, so that when course registration for your term comes around, then you'll be ready to go and know what classes you need to register for. In some instances, we may hold off on doing your academic advising meeting until we get a little bit closer to our, course registration period open date, just so that we have a more astute lineup of what classes are being offered for that specific term. But once that's all said and done, you've done your initial academic advising meeting and you've had your plan of study created, you'll be able to take what's referred to as our course reference numbers, or CRNs, and then you'll be able to submit that into the student portal to go ahead and register for classes. We have a lot of further details on how that actually looks like within the system over here, but we're not going to be covering that in today. But if you'd like to look into that, absolutely feel free to reach out to our office over here. Now, of course, the biggest questions that we have from many students is, of course, the actual cost for the program here. So for our MS Marine Science program and our MPS Environmental Science program, our current tuition rates are set at $1,526. Now, what I like to say in regards to that is our tuition rates do change on a year-to-year basis. So this is for this fiscal year. Our years change over from the end of June into July. So those looking to start for the fall 2026 semester, you can assume that the tuition rates will change. They do usually trend upward, but by very, very small margins, usually like 2 to 4%. So actually from last fiscal year to this fiscal year, we only saw tuition rates rise by about $30. But in total then for either of our master's programs, for the MS Marine Science program, you're looking at just about $55,000 in total, rounding up just a tad over there. The exact number, of course, is on screen. And then likewise for the MPS Environmental Science program, you're looking at just about 46,000 in comparison. Now, that is specifically for your tuition costs. There are other associated fees with being a student over here that you may incur, some of which includes like our institutional fees, which is going to be covering the variety of the different resources that you would utilize here on campus, whether that be, physically based equipment used within any of our different labs for the classes, or any of the online journal subscriptions and articles and scientific databases that you'll get access to utilize throughout your time here for especially a lot of your writings. Then at doctoral level, our PhD in oceanography photography program is set at 1,228 per credit hour, coming out to a total of 92,000 for the program. Now, I don't want you to get scared off by that number necessarily. That is before any sort of types of financial aid, and you have to keep in mind, right, at doctoral level, we are usually looking to have you here for a longer amount of time. So that's one why you're seeing that credit differential, especially in the per credit hour basis. And back to what Dr. Kerfoot was mentioning before, we do have the ability to transfer up to 30 credits into your upper level coursework. So you may not actually have to pay that entire total in terms of tuition credit, or excuse me, in terms of credits for your total tuition costs. So it could be much less in comparison there. And on that note, of course, we do want to talk about financial aid a little bit more so. And oh, sorry, one second. There we go. So, of course, talking about FAFSA. Now, at graduate level, you're usually going to see less opportunities in the form of gift aid coming from the federal government, but we still do have opportunities for students that are going to be taking a look into educational loans, or if you guys are familiar with federal work study. For those of you unfamiliar with federal work study, it is a federal-based program that allows students to work on campus in various different types of positions across the university. Hourly rates are usually how those positions are set up, but depending on what you qualify for through your FAFSA is how much you can earn over the course of one academic year. So our average graduate student can qualify to make up to $9,000 in one academic year, but then that is split between your 3 terms, right? So essentially you cap out at around $3,000 for fall, winter, and summer. Most of our federal work study positions follow the general Florida minimum wage, which for us is actually set to $14 an hour. And we may see it increase again for next academic year. But usually we keep in line with that at graduate level too. You do generally see higher hourly rate based positions because you guys have a lot more experience under your belt, more knowledge, skills, techniques, and so forth. If you ever have any questions about any of your financial aid, you can certainly reach out to our Office of Financial Aid. The one thing I always like to clarify in terms of what they function as an office for us at our institution is that our Office of Financial Aid is responsible for a lot of the processing, allocations and disbursements of your financial aid, but it would not be necessarily the office you reach out to if you're looking for more information about how you would go about applying, right? Or where the funds come from necessarily. So they're there to be your troubleshoot office in case, anything goes awry or if you're unsure if things are listing out correctly on your student account. With that in mind, too, our bursar's office does allow for payment plans, and this extends to both our domestic and international students. We have payment plans that can vary in frequency anywhere from biweekly, tri-weekly, all the way up to monthly. And usually those payment plans open up a month or two ahead of the term you are looking to start at. The only thing you want to keep in mind if you're going to be looking into payment plans is that usually upon sign up of any of our plans, you do usually have some down payment that you have to pay at enrollment period. So just want to keep that in mind as you're looking into those as options. And then, of course, you have their contact information listed over here if you have any specific questions. Now, we do have a variety of different scholarship opportunities for our students, and they fall under 3 different designations here. So we have institutional, college-wide, and department-specific. At institution level, it's available for any of our students that have been admitted to the university. So there tends to be a higher amount of competitiveness among those types of scholarships. But for each one that we have listed out, say, on our scholarships page, they're still going to have more specific criteria that they're looking like for that scholarship's applicant pool. So when we're talking about these requirements, it's in more of a general sense so that you can at least try it, or so that you at least know whether or not you would at least qualify to out the get-go start to look into it. At college-wide level, you would be looking you would have to be a student underneath our Halmos College of Arts and Sciences. So likewise, then you're looking at a more limited applicant pool, but we do have 7 different departments underneath the Halmos College. So still have a larger amount of applicants that could be looking to apply to these at any point during the year. And then we have our department specific scholarships. So just to preface, you would be looking under our Department of Marine Environmental Sciences for the scholarship offerings there. One thing that's set up a little bit unique to the Department of Marine Environmental Science is that many of the scholarships do either require you to have a research project in line, either already in the works or at least a detailed plan as to what it may entail, or I should say, possibly having been at least here a semester so that we have some course grades to go off of for your application. Now we have a couple of different partnerships with different entities too. So one big one is Guy Harvey's Research Institute. You may see a scholarship listed online that falls underneath that name designation. However, that scholarship is only available for certain students that are working with the lab associated with Guy Harvey's research team, which is our conservation biology and genetics lab. So that is a little bit more of a specialty one in comparison. And what I do also want to make sure you guys all understand is that you must first be admitted to the university before you can apply for any of these scholarships, right? So as long as you do have at least your admissions letter, and in some cases, right, with those department scholarships that we were just discussing, you may have to be one step further, being that you must be enrolled then, or at least, registered for classes and will be starting, say, for like that next subsequent term. However, we do not have any scholarships that cover full tuition costs. It's only going to be partial tuition costs. We do also have some other types of paid position opportunities here that could be of interest to many of you. So I know a very common question I get is what types of assistantships that you have available here at our university. And we have two different kinds that you could look into. So we have research assistantships and teaching assistantships. So I'm first going to start with research assistantships. Now, in terminology, or I guess in premise for the name itself, so this is more of a generic term for full-time positions with the university, because the biggest financial contributor to this type of position is the 80% tuition reduction that you get as a full-time benefits eligible employee of the university. However, the research style assistantships are kind of one of those kill two birds with one stone, or even kind of three birds with one stone instance. So this type of position works very well for our students in our master's level programs or PhD level programs because of the fact that you essentially make your job being a student. So you're going to usually be working with a lab anyways, especially if you're coming into our thesis track masters and definitely at doctoral level. Now, I do like to preface at doctoral level, the tuition discount is actually reduced to 50% rather than 80%, but the 80% is for our master's level programs. And so while you're there, you're still usually going to be as a full-time employee, then receiving a salary of some kind. And then because you're already going to be spending time in lab, it works out beautifully because you're going to have your required hours that you'll do in that position. But then, of course, then you'll have opportunities to continue working on, say, your thesis or dissertation where necessary. Now, this is still absolutely available to students within the MPS Environmental Science program. I would say it really kind of depends on each individual lab as to whether or not they may have these types of positions available. So they can come around throughout the year, but you would mostly want to be looking on our NSU careers listing page to see any type of research assistant orientated positions. In similar fashion, though, you're more than welcome to do outreach to any of our faculty and staff here and inquire about if they'd be looking to hire any individuals in a full-time capacity. But what I like to say as like kind of the side comment in regards to that, as long as you would be interested in working in a full-time position here at the university, you could still qualify for that same employee tuition discount. But you have to keep in mind, you must complete a 6-month probationary period before you'd be able to apply said discount. And then there is a maximum amount of credits that you can utilize the tuition discount on, which is 6 credits per semester. That's not really too big of an issue for our students, since that's what the average full-time student is taking anyways in our master's or PhD level programs. Then we do have teaching assistantships, but these are a little bit more limited availability, and they are, of course, highly competitive. They're based on departmental funds, and then, of course, also on how many students may be graduating out that year/semester. So these come and are usually handled through our Department of Biological Sciences. They need quite a few of our graduate level teaching assistants to help with the lab portions of our bio courses. Our Department of Biological Sciences is actually our largest department within the Halmos College, so we teach a plethora of different courses that require lab portions. And for that purpose, they do bring in new students usually every single year to help in that TA type position. However, first off, this is a little bit different comparative, say, to a research assistantship, being that this is more of a scholarship stipend combo. So you have the possibility of making up to $20,000 in one academic year, but again, it's based off of departmental funding and of what you may actually owe, say, in tuition costs. But it is split into generally a scholarship stipend combo. So at least to paint more of a hypothetical situation over here, if we were to look into receiving, say, the full $20,000 allotment, it is generally broken then into your fall and winter semesters. The teaching assistantship positions run in conjunction to the undergraduate calendar year, so that means you would not have this position during the summertime. For that purpose, then your 10,000 for fall and winter is actually broken up even further. So you could receive a scholarship that's up to $5,000, and then a stipend that's usually then broken of the other 5,000. So averaging out to about a $625 stipend. Now I know it's usually a little more self-explanatory, but I always just like to preface the scholarship that's put directly towards your tuition costs. You have no say where that money goes, whereas the stipend that is paid directly to you. So that's at your discretion as to how you would use those funds. Obviously, for a lot of students, they usually are going to put that back towards tuition costs. Now, as a final note, depending on what may be going on throughout the year, all of our faculty and staff across our research labs, especially within the Department of Marine Environmental Sciences, are working on different types of funding opportunities, either to cover expenses for their research or for you guys as students that you can get out to any of the different society-based conferences or meetings to go and do further professional development, and even might be able to cover some of the travel fees associated with that. That's going to be a more case-by-case scenario. So if and when you find your major advisor or working underneath one of our different research labs, you can inquire about that with your primary investigator. But then finally, what I wanted to discuss over here, we do have a couple of other tuition discount programs. So if we have anyone here from the local area that works underneath Broward County Sheriff's Office or any of their adjacent offices like the Fire and Rescue for Broward County, you can look to possibly receive a 30% tuition discount. That is predicated on first being admitted to one of our programs, and then we do have to have a verification process for your employment, and you have to continue to verify your employment on a year-to-year basis. Then on the flip side, we also have an agreement with our Veterans Resource Center. So our university is very military friendly and affiliated. So for all of our graduate programs under the Halmos College, we do offer a 20% tuition discount to any active or retired members of the U.S. Armed Forces and their dependents. So if mom or dad, say, had served in the U.S. Army, you could possibly look into getting that same 20% tuition discount. General process for that. So likewise, you do first have to be admitted to one of our graduate programs, and then afterwards, you would have to send a copy of your discharge papers, so like your DD-214, or possibly another form of military ID over to our Veterans Resource Center, and then they'll verify that information for us and then let us know. If you have any questions about the Military Affairs Academic Program discount, you can reach out to Matthew Chenworth, who is our Senior Director for Military Affairs with the Veterans Resource Center. Other than that, of course, I did just want to plug in our social media for us. So like I said at the beginning of the presentation, if you decide that you want to go and check this out again at a later point in time, you can go and look at our YouTube channel, which is under the name of NSU Halmos College of Arts and Sciences. But most of our handles, you can find us at the shorter version of NSU HCAS. So that's HCAS. Other than that, though, I would love to open it up for questions. If you guys are wondering about anything that we've just discussed, now is the time. Feel free to go ahead and throw that in the chat.
So I know we did have a couple of questions coming in. So Teddy, thank you so much, and everyone that attended. I know Dr. Kerfer, you said you wanted to answer one of those questions live, and particularly the question I believe was, what should we expect, or what are we looking for from applying to graduate programs from a resume standpoint? So Dr. Kerfer, do you want to answer that question?
Sure. Yeah. So we're looking for, well, it's kind of interesting. So getting into the master's program, we understand that that maybe certain types of jobs are not as important as it relates to the graduate degree you're seeking. But showing that you're out and about, maybe engaged in volunteer work is just as important. Maybe different clubs and work outside of maybe that university type of coursework. But university coursework is also important too, kind of showing, you want to show what skills you've gained from some of that coursework as well. So I think, as you build your resume, or as scientists may call it, a curriculum vitae, you want to kind of showcase, even if it's not as much or very long, you want to showcase the skills that you do know, to kind of highlight what you're capable of that might not be obvious with a job that is not maybe related to the scientific realm. I don't know if that makes any sense at all or muddies the water, but we want to know that you're willing to learn, but that you also have some skills that you're bringing to the table that we can exploit, I guess, as research mentors. So that's helpful going from the undergrad to the master's level. But in the PhD work, we want to know all about that master's work that you've completed, right? Because you have to have a master's to get in. And so again, also include the skills that you learn. If you know computer coding, add that to your resume. Add, if you have some statistics background, add that to your resume. Experimental design, you operate small watercraft, those kind of things. That kind of gives a glimpse in your application of some of that background skills that could be valuable as you conduct research here at NSU. And I think I would echo exactly what Teddy says. I mean, you could pick anybody to be a reference. You want to pick somebody that is specific to what you're applying to, that can help highlight your magnificence in that realm. Don't just pick your third cousin because they give you a good reference.
And if I may add on to that too, this isn't necessarily something I would say is required, but it can help you as we have you start our programs over here. A lot of our faculty are always love to know more about your research interest too. So as you'd be coming into the master's program, if you wanted to have like a section, probably only like 4 to 5 sentences max that just list out, what your interest research, or excuse me, your research interests are. And I've seen on many, many different resumes, some different formats on, listing out, like Dr. Kerfoot said, having sections, listing really good techniques that you've learned, skill sets that you have, and pertinent coursework that you've had. Obviously, we're going to get transcripts too, so we're going to see some of that information, but to be able to have that condensed within your resume, so it's a little bit easier for us to pull and then be able to discuss in real time, assist quite a bit. We've had many different students who have been able to kind of pull in a lot of their, pull in and surmise what they've done for some of their past experiences within the realm of research too. So like one great example is if you've done poster sessions at different types of conferences or meetings for research projects that you've been a part of, whether it be at your undergrad or at your master's degree. Those are wonderful additions to have within the resume.
And I would also echo what Teddy is saying. Even if you're not presenting a poster or an oral presentation at a scientific conference, try to go to one, because that's how you start networking, and that's how you start meeting different researchers, and you maybe even start gauging your own interest in different types of subjects and even programs. And so that'll give you a great way to network and then determine what you might like to work on in the future.
Absolutely. And one thing I do like to just remind students of, particularly we do get a decent number of students that have gone out into the workforce, worked a couple of years and then are coming back. So if this applies to any of our guests today, make sure that you are also keeping up with your faculty, communicate with them and just kind of engage their interests. Because as Dr. Kerfoot mentioned, he came from Tennessee. So, our faculty have been in a lot of different places. And I know they love hearing back from students, just kind of keeping up with what is going on in the marine and environmental world. Well, your faculty are going to be great references for those types of things because they are, they're living and breathing it on a daily basis. So definitely, I would encourage you to keep up with faculty, keep that relationship going. And if you haven't, reach back out. I know faculty love hearing from alumni and hearing about what you're up to and what you're doing. And they might have some great insight for you as well, just looking down the road for yourself. So I don't see any more questions coming in. I know we did go a little bit over our timeline here. So for those of you that are attending, thank you very much. As always, Dr. Kerfoot, thank you very much for being here. Dari, appreciate it for being here as well. And Teddy, as always, wonderful job. If you guys do have further questions, like Ray said right now, our email is on there, our phone number is on there. Please do not hesitate to reach out and contact my staff. We are always happy to answer questions. And if Teddy didn't say it at the beginning, we encourage you to come visit the campus. We run all the tours out here for this facility. It's definitely worth going and knowing where your labs and classes will be. Plus, it is a beautiful campus location. I cannot speak highly enough of the job that NSU has done maintaining and building this beautiful marine facility that we do have down here in Fort Lauderdale. So with that being said, thank you all very much for being here. I look forward to hopefully seeing you around campus in the near future. Take care, everyone, and have a great rest of your week.